And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we'll be doing in this tutorial will be creating the environment for the house that we'll be building in Project 2 or in Lab 2, and setting this up and making it look just a little bit nicer than what it is right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually change the floor out. The floor itself is a static mesh, so you can see that when I select it, it clicks over here into the world outliner and it sets itself up as a static mesh actor. And the problem with that already, as we've identified, is that it's not as easy to change the tiling on something like this. So what I'm going to do, and I clicked Control Z or Apple Z to undo that option. So what I usually do is I will delete the floor. So I select it and delete it. And now I will go and find a geometry, grab a box, put that out onto the floor. Okay, now at this point, obviously it's going to bring in a standard box. So because it is a geometry, I can select it and go into the details panel. And inside the details panel, let's say I'm going to leave this at a height. So remember, this is the Z axis. So there's the 200. So I'm going to leave that at 200. I am then going to get the Y and the X axis, and let's bring those to, let's say, 2000. Tab 2000. Oops. And let's see how big of a floor. Okay, so that's still not as big as the floor was originally. So let's make this. Now the other thing you could also do other than typing it in is you can actually scroll and do it this way. Okay, so that gives us roughly about, let's do 5,000. So I'll sort of like that. And we could obviously do that with the other side as well. Now, the thing that we want to try to avoid here is we don't want to do this with the scaling tool. So notice that I'm doing it here underneath brush settings, and I'm actually changing the dimensions. So then that way, as I do this, I get the tile and I will be able to change the tiling the way that I want, make it look at whatever size I want. Otherwise, you saw what it did when we had it on the other floor. It looked really big and we looked like we were really tiny against how big the floor was. Now that may be an effect that you're going for. Maybe in your game, you're making it look like the people have shrunk down to a smaller size. But you could also do that with the geometry and you'd, again, have way more control over that. So I'm just going to lower that down to the point where it's close to where the other walls were. I'm not super worried about getting them lined up right now because we'll end up doing that in a minute. All right, so I will put this back closer to the middle. And so if that was 5,000, 5,000, let's make the other way go the same. Let's do that with the other side. So I'm going to select the object again. I'm going to come back over to the brush tool. Where are you? Oh, I think I feel like I have something else selected. There's the brush tool. Okay, so there's the additional 5,000 that we need to place in. And now we have this floor that is slightly larger than the area that we had before. Okay, so now that we've done that, the other thing we want to do now is create the walls and put them in the area around the box. And the reason that we need to do this, unfortunately, is that your player character, like for example, I'll select one wall and hit delete. I'm going to go ahead and push play. Now if I go for the open wall, I can actually, as a player, I'm going to walk off backwards so you can see it, and there I go, and I'm dead. Now that may be something that you want. You might want your character, so I actually have to hit escape to get back. And then here I am back in my level. All right, so obviously we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and build a wall and keep my character inside the area that I want him to. I want them to operate in. I don't want them to fall off. So again, I'm going to go and grab another geometry and grab another box. And I already know that one of these sides is going to be 5,000 because that's the length of the wall or the floor that we have. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that that's the red one. I assign that the red one is always going to be the X. So I'm going to type in 5,000 there. And I now have a wall that is the length of the other wall, or a wall that is the length of the floor. Now, if I need to align this, I can also use my arrow keys, or I can actually come in here and type. So I should be able to we go. And that's good enough. Nobody's going to actually see it from this side. They're only going to be able to see it because the player will be within the game. So they won't actually be able to see if it's misaligned on the back side. What we do want to do, obviously, is we want to make this large enough because at this point, if I push play, my character could definitely jump on that, and then I'd be able to jump off again. Now, to give you an idea of the height of the character itself, for the most part, the character is 200 by 200, as it appears right here. 200 by 200 by 50. So the height is about 200. So if I need to make sure that if my character jumps plus the height, that the legs won't be able to get up high enough to be able to get on anything to jump up. So usually a 400-foot wall or a 400-foot, and not the Y, we're actually going to do this across the Z. That's going to be the blue. So I'm actually going to leave this, let's say 50, so that the wall thickness, well, the wall thickness can stay 50. Let's make that 100. So it's a somewhat thick wall. And from there, let's make the Z-axis 400. And we don't see the height because some of it is actually inside the other layer. So let's pick this all the way up so that we can see the bottom of this. And you can see now that they're no longer touching. And remember that if you have an object selected and you hit the N key, it'll lay it down on top of the other object. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with lining this up again. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so now that we have one wall, we essentially have what we're looking for. So with the other walls, what I can do is I just can select them, hit delete, delete, and delete. Now the first wall is actually going to be fairly easy. What I'm going to do is select the wall and I'm going to hit Alt and drag. And what that will do is actually create another instance of the same object. And we did this in the other tutorial, so we're going to be showing you a couple of shortcuts and their usefulness here. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. We'll line that guy up. And if you need to, zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. And let's just make, and this alignment should already be the same because literally we dragged it. So we were able to just move the alignment that way. Okay, so now that we have created the second wall from dragging out the first wall and have lined it up, the next thing that we want to do is create these two additional walls. Now the way that we're going to do that is by selecting one of these walls, hitting Control-C, Control-V so that we make a copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the wall and I'm going to right click on this bottom vertice. Now that it is selected, I have shifted the vertice point from the center to the outside over here, and I'm able to drag that second wall out, and you can see how lovely that actually lined up with everything. And we can check the other side and see that the other side looks like it got pushed out just a little bit, might be a little bit longer than we might need, but again, the player is not going to really be able to see that unless they get up to a second floor. So it just really depends on whether it's absolutely necessary for it to be there. Now the other thing also too is that it looks like it's out the same amount as what it is over here. So if we knew that the wall was I guess it's 50 units smaller than the other one. The other thing we could also do, so we could change the size of the wall, or we can drag the wall and there could be a little bit of an overlap like that. And that should then take care of what's on the other side. Okay, so that line lines up a little bit better now. So let's do that one more time. Okay, just so that we can see how we can rotate out a wall. So I'm going to select the wall, hit Control-C, Control-V to make a duplicate copy. I'm going to right click on the bottom vertex over here. I'm going to hit my spacebar until it turns into my rotation tool, and then I'm going to rotate that out from there. Now, again, we get that little extra bit on the back, so let's delete that. Let's do it one more time. Let's hit Control-C, Control-V, and this time I'm going to rotate it from the outside wall. And yeah, now we have the wall sitting outside. It is lined up this way, so that we shouldn't get any bit of an overlap, and then at that point it would just be pushing it back in. So let's do that and get it lined up with the floor. Okay, there we go. So now we have an area that's 5,000 by 5,000, where we're going to be building a 2-story house in the next project. There are just a few more things that I'd like to do this real quick. Since we are going to be building a house, I want to take some of these objects and move them and stack them, let's say, in the corner. So I can grab one object together, or I can actually grab 2 objects together by holding the Shift key as I select, and that allowed me to be able to grab 2 items. And you'll notice that when I do that, the vertice, I believe, goes into the last of the objects that was selected, and the relationship between those 2 objects should stay the same. So I'm just going to take all these things and kind of stack them up in a corner. Let's grab these objects. So I'm going to go Shift, Shift. Let's move those. Also, rotation works the same way. So if I need to rotate them, put them in the corner like that so I can stack them faster. Here's another 2 objects. Shift, Shift. Spacebar, spacebar. Move them closer to some other objects. And now I'm going to hold Shift again, select these objects, and move them. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm just taking all my boxes and putting them in one of the corners. Now from there, the next thing that we're going to do is, just like we changed the floor with the geometry, I'm going to go ahead and select these and change these because they are static meshes and I don't like the way that the materials end up on them. So I'm going to select that one and delete. I'm going to select this one and delete. And I'm going to make a couple of additional walls. A fast way to make a wall would be to grab this. We can make another copy, so I can hit the Alt. You can do something like that. And essentially what I'm looking for is an area where your character is going to start, sort of like this. We'll be able to look down the edge there, and then there will be an opening down here for the character to be able to move through. So if we wanted to, another way that we can make that would be by, let's say, making this a little bit less than 5,000. So let's make it 3,000. We'll move that into the corner there, into the wall. And now we'll have sort of that, what we were looking for. So if I was the character and I was starting here, I would walk down this way, and then I would have to turn around to engage and be in the larger area. Now, if you wanted to box this up just a little bit more so it looked like there was more of a passage, again, we could make another copy of this by hitting Control-Alt and dragging, there's my copy, along not the x-axis but the y-axis. No, sorry. Let's make this a little bit shorter. There we go. So we're using the x-axis. And remember that as long as this hole, that the passageway is a little bit bigger than 200, your character should be able to walk through it, no problem. And if you wanted to, at this point now, you can grab your character and let's put them into the starting position of where we want them to be when this level starts. So the first person character is this capsule with the camera and the arms with the gun. And we're going to just keep moving this way. Now, another thing that we could also do is, as I'm moving this, there is a shortcut that if I hold the Shift key as I drag up, you'll see that I am still moving the character, but instead of me just moving the character in space, the character is being moved with me, or the space is being moved around me, and that allows me to get there faster without having to do quite as many clicks and drags. And right now, if the game started, my character would actually be facing the wall, and the way I know this is because I can see that that's the direction that the camera is pointing. So I'm going to hit the spacebar key and rotate this around 90 degrees, so then that way my character actually starts facing in this direction. Okay, so now that we've done that, the next thing that we want to do is, there is a piece of text that is available here. That text we're going to go ahead and use. So if you select the A, you'll see that that grabs the text, and now we can move that text to where we want. And essentially, and actually I'm going to have you change the character's look. I'm going to have them looking at the wall. And the reason for this is because we're actually going to use this text and place it on the wall. So I'm going to grab this text, and I actually need to flip it around to where it makes sense, because right now if I just rotated it up, the text would actually be backwards for us. So again, rotation tool, let's rotate it 180 degrees. And now that we have the text facing in the right direction, we can now place this against the wall. Okay. And that looks pretty cool. So let's grab this, put it up a little bit. And now that we have the text selected, if we look in the details panel, we should have a box there that allows us to be able to change the text information. So you'll see text as a heading. You'll see the word first person template. And what we're going to do is erase that and replace that with your name. Okay. I'm going to put my full name because it'll be out on the internet. Okay, so there is Martin Teacher. And the next part of this is I actually want you to make an additional copy of this. And so to do this, we'll do Alt, click and drag down. And we now have a secondary copy of that. And what we can do now is we can type in portfolio. Okay, and if we need to align that a little bit better, we can either move this closer to where those would align or move this back, and at this point it's just text setting what you like. All right, very nice. So now we have Martin Teacher, portfolio. That'll be your name, your last name, portfolio. Because essentially what we're going to be doing with the labs is this will be a portfolio that you'll be able to present to maybe a prospective boss. And because of that, they'll want to be able to see your name and that you're able to do something like this. Now, for whatever reason, if you wanted to change the size, the text, the angle, the alignment of this, all that would be available here underneath text tools. So if I still have this selected and I go from word size 8 to let's say word size 7, you'll see that the text got a little bit smaller. And let's make this actually 5 and put it into the corner. So then that way there is a little bit of size difference between my name and the word portfolio so that my name sticks out. And then maybe the other thing I might do is again select my name. Instead of this being a blue, let's click somewhere closer in the middle and make it a white so it sticks out very easily against the wall. Now the cool thing about this too is that if we select the text color, we do have the information for the text color there. So you'll see that the white that I'm using is 2.5, 2.3, make that 255 just so that it's the white. And now I could do the same thing with the other one. So if you're looking at that, you could either come here and try to guess the information again, or you could just go in and actually type in the information for that. I know that mine is going to be in the center. It's going to be pretty much this with that, and that should leave me with the hexadecimal value for white, which should be FFFFF. All right, so now I have the game area for the most part set up. I have it divided into 2 areas. I have a wall that has been created around the outside to make sure that the player isn't able to fall off the edge. I've collected all the boxes and all the other objects and placed them in a corner out of the way. And I have given this level a name and some information. So then that way when you start playing this level, you can see whose level it belongs to or who is the person that made the game. So let's go ahead and hit save current. It's always a good idea to save. Saving you should be doing once every 15 to 20 minutes or every time you accomplish something that you definitely want to save, that you want to make sure that you don't lose. So real quick, what I'll do is I'll just kind of walk through my level. So you'll see that there's my name with my portfolio deal. I walk down, everything is bricks, floor is bricks. These are objects. Those are those guys. And then this would open up into the larger level that we're going to be doing in the next project. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape to get out of there. And that is the end of this video tutorial. And we'll see you in the next one, and we'll start building a house in the next video tutorial. So have a wonderful day, and goodbye.